Hi, I'm Mary Cagle. I'm a Miami resident and an attorney, and began my career many years ago at the state attorney's office, working first for Janet Reno and then for Kathy Rundle. And I worked there approximately 22 years and did many different things, ending my career there as a chief assistant for Kathy, prosecuting in the area of special prosecutions, police corruption. And I really actually thought I was going to end my career there. But one day I was sitting at my desk and I received a phone call from a search committee. And the search committee wanted to know if I would interview for a position as the executive director of Charlie Homes for Children, which was a foster care program. And of course, this was out of the blue, so I thought probably not. But I had always been interested in children's issues. And so that began a change in career, actually. And so I interviewed with the search firm for Charlie and met an amazing woman who was the chair of their board, someone who has been and was involved with the Women's Fund for years. And her name was Marilyn March. And she became a lifelong friend. Marilyn was the board chair at Charlie as I came on board as the executive director. And the first thing she did was she said, I'd like to come on as staff, as a development director. And so Marilyn left the position as chair and came on as the development director. And for the next 4 years, we worked with the other staff at Charlie in this foster care program, trying to change the lives of women and children. After 4 years, and that was a period of Florida going through the privatization of its foster care system. After those 4 years, the governor, Charlie Crist, asked Bob Butterworth, who had been the former Attorney General for Florida, if he would take the position in his administration as the secretary of DCF, the Department of Children and Families. And Bob said yes. And what an impactful decision that was. Bob Butterworth came with his partner from St. Thomas, his number 2 from St. Thomas, George Sheldon, and they began leading the Department of Children and Families. The first thing these lawyers said was we have to change the way legal services are provided at DCF. At the time, legal services, even the lawyers who were doing the dependency cases and appearing in court on behalf of children, all of those lawyers reported up through the general counsel's office. And Bob Butterworth said, that doesn't make any sense. The dependency lawyers should have their own reporting chain and their own director who will report to me, because they have a very different mission than the general counsel's office. We want these lawyers not to be concerned about DCF's liability. We want these lawyers to go to court and litigate on behalf of these kids and what they and their families need. And so we set about changing the model of representation at the Department of Children and Families. It was a very, very exciting time. And we hired a regional director in every part of the state and began the mission of going to court to make sure that children received what they needed and that the lawyer representing them in court was not just concerned with DCF's liability. I worked with the Department of Children and Families for approximately 7 years. And at the conclusion of that, being a bit tired of all of the traveling, I took a job as the Inspector General for Miami-Dade County. And that was a 7-year engagement where it was really back to my roots as a prosecutor and really looking for fraud, abuse, corruption in county government. Now, my relationship with the Women's Fund really began when I was at Charlie. And while I was at Charlie, we received one of our first grants from the Women's Fund. It was an amazing time. The thing that stands out for me personally about the impactfulness of the Women's Fund was the day we all appeared, people from all around the county appeared at a breakfast where there was a microphone set up in every corner of the room and lines of women standing in line for their turn and taking turns, telling the stories of women and children in our community and how the Women's Fund had helped them. To be in that room and hear all of these stories about how women collectively and individually were working to better the lives of women and children in Miami-Dade County was absolutely unbelievable. One of the things that always resonates with me about the mission of the Women's Fund is that it's both collective and individual. So the collective impact of the Women's Fund is monumental. Women share stories of what they're able to do in these organizations because of the support of the Women's Fund. But it's not just at the level of organization. These same women are changing the world one person at a time, one woman at a time, one child at a time, by being able to help them access health care. In the foster care system, they were helping us do the things for the children that a system can't do for them, but meeting the individual needs of the families and of the children. It's just really amazing that the organization touches not only the big systems, but also every child that needs help, every woman that needs help, to the extent that they can. So much has changed over the last couple of years in Miami-Dade County and in the world, in the country, in Florida. The Women's Fund has 4 pillars that they believe are really, really important. And I do too. And those pillars will be so impactful for the future of women and children in this county. When I think of a vision for the Women's Fund in the upcoming years, I feel they have to take a powerful stance on a woman's right to be in control of her body and to make choices herself with her family and her doctor about next steps in her life in situations where she becomes pregnant. The Women's Fund is in a position to be impactful as the law changes and to make meaningful change for women and children. The Women's Fund brings people together and organizes them in a way that they can collaborate together to have a voice that can create change. I'd also like to see the Women's Fund become very active in the arena of education. It is so important that children have access to fair, solid, truthful educational opportunities. The public school system has been really under attack in the last few years, and it is a powerful institution in this country. And I believe the Women's Fund, at least my vision, would be that they could play a powerful role in the area of education in the future.